Hello, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Wild and Wonderful Enrichment. It's a dynamic educational experience, nurturing curiosity, creativity, and confidence through hands-on experiences and community-driven learning. I'm Jodie Witmer, the founder. I am in Baker, West Virginia, and you can see there my email and links to my website and Facebook page. So you can see this is me and my son Thomas, who is 8 years old, and my husband Chad, that I've been married to for the past 10 years. A little bit about my educational background and military service. I grew up in Moorfield. I went to Moorfield High School and graduated in 2004. And then I went on to Potomac State and played volleyball and softball. And my sophomore year of college, I decided to transfer to Shepherd University, where I majored in elementary education and softball. Softball was more of a priority for me than my degree, but I did graduate with my bachelor's in elementary education. After graduating, I also joined the Air National Guard in Martinsburg and became a C-5 loadmaster, which is the largest aircraft in the Air Force. That's where I met my husband. And while I was a loadmaster, I also taught kindergarten at Shepherdstown Elementary. My husband and I started getting more serious. We were dating at the time. And being a loadmaster requires a lot of traveling and additional commitments. And I decided that being a teacher and a loadmaster, it was just a lot. It was a lot to take on. So I became a recruiter for the Air National Guard. I left teaching. I did that for a year. It was not a good fit. I am not a recruiter. I just want to let everyone join, but because of requirements and eligibility, you have to say no to a lot of people and crush their dreams. And that just wasn't me. I didn't like it. So I left being a recruiter and became a photojournalist at the 167th Airlift Wing. I really loved it. I originally wanted to be a photographer when I joined the Air National Guard, so it worked out well. And being a recruiter, I knew all the jobs that were available. So I became a photojournalist, and that led to me starting a photography business on the side in the civilian world. And then I also had let me take a step back. I taught gifted education in Hardy County for 2 years. Then I got pregnant, had my son, decided I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. It's what worked for our family. And I continued to be a stay-at-home mom and substitute until 2020, when I transitioned out of the Air National Guard and then started substituting in 2022 through 2023. Initially, I had sent Thomas to kindergarten. However, I had homeschooling in the back of my mind. The year that I sent Thomas to kindergarten, he did really well. He excelled. He had a great teacher, grade 8. The following year, his first grade year, I decided to become a substitute. And when I stepped into the classroom at his school, it wasn't exactly what I expected. It was different from when I had taught kindergarten in Shepherdstown. And I questioned the quality of education he was getting. It wasn't anything that the teachers were doing. They have over 20 kids in a classroom, and it's just really hard to meet the needs of each individual kid. And I was just concerned that he wasn't getting the education that he could get. So I learned about the Hope Scholarship. I have the link here. We applied for that in May. He was accepted. It is an educational savings account that is new to West Virginia. And once he was accepted, I pulled him from public school and we started doing our own thing at home. So the Hope Scholarship, like I said, is an educational savings account where you use the state portion of the education funding. We do an individualized instruction plan And the amount that you get is $4,488.82, and that varies from year to year. And you get it in 2 installments. Now, prior to sending Thomas to public school, we were part of Free Forest School, which he started when he was about 3 years old. And all the families there were homeschool families. And I honestly didn't know anything about homeschooling. I didn't have any friends that were homeschoolers. I just didn't know anything about it. And I really enjoyed being able to connect with these families and allow our kids to be outside and play. And it was something we really enjoyed. And after the first year of Free Forest School, it turned into the Roots Cooperative, which was just a group of parents that would decide to teach whatever each week. Sometimes it was just a hike and we would learn as we went. Maybe it would be learning about a different plant, or it was just an organic learning environment. A question would come up, we would learn together. And sometimes I found myself letting Thomas skip school to go to some of their activities. And that was something that obviously can create problems if you don't send your kid to school and let them skip school. So I would get phone calls about how many days Thomas had missed, because on top of going to different educational events, he was sick all the time because all the germs and, school kids touch and lick and pick their noses and everything. It doesn't matter if you're at a school or at home, that happens. But anyway, I really embrace the enriching aspects of homeschooling, and it was something that I really liked. So once we pulled Thomas from public school, I was inspired by our previous homeschooling experiences with other homeschool families, and I knew there would be a desire for Thomas to interact with his peers. He's a people person. He enjoys being around other kids. I also am a people person and enjoy being around people. And I started thinking, how can we create an alternative educational option and continue to be in a nurturing and supportive community? So I started researching alternative education methods. I've listened to podcasts, read books, and I went to a workshop that Jamie Buckland from the West Virginia Few put on in Augusta that spoke about the Hope Scholarship and other educational opportunities. And that led to me deciding to create Wild and Wonderful Enrichment. So we started classes in September. I've had book studies on My Side of the Mountain, James and the Giant Peach, A Christmas Carol. We took a field trip to see A Christmas Carol at the Shakespeare Center in Stanton, Virginia. And of course, it wasn't just the kids in the class. Their whole family was invited to come. So we had parents and grandparents and brothers and sisters come along with us. And it was really fun and great experience. I've also had a variety of science classes with hands-on experiments. And we had a fun free day or a Nerf battle at the Wardensville Park. And I'd like to have more events like that too in the future. So right now my classes are scheduled around my family's trips and our obligations. I like the flexibility of homeschooling and homeschooling, and it gives us the opportunity to go and learn with our son. Like recently we went to Boston with my husband for a conference, and Boston is just full of history, and it's a trip that Thomas is not ever going to forget. And it was amazing being able to just walk around and learn as we went. And we would come back to our hotel and we watch YouTube videos on different things that we came across or that we wanted to do. And I found that there was a reduction in stress for me personally compared to some of the public school constraints, such as attendance. That was something that stressed me out because I was constantly getting calls about how many absences Thomas had. So that worked out for me. Right now, I hold classes at my home in Baker. It's almost in Ryan. It does pose a challenge for the families that commute to me because kind of in the middle of nowhere, like a lot of places in West Virginia. So there's some families that have to drive from Matthias or Cape and Springs to come to me. And I have had other families express interest also that are a little bit further away. But I would like to find other locations to meet at that could serve more families. And right now, because I live in a small house, it's a little 2-bedroom house. It is open concept, so it gives us a little bit of space, but the size is limited to 6 because of the size of our house. In the summer, it's not such a big deal because we're outside pretty much the whole time. But this winter, I'm finding 6 kids is a lot for our space. So I would really like to find other options for us to hold classes. A typical day right now, the kids are dropped off from 9:15 to 9:30. They have free play. That could be playing outside if the weather permits, even if it's really cold. Today I had a class and it's 20 degrees outside and they were out there, they were dressed appropriately with their boots and their gloves and their coats and hats, and they were outside playing in the snow. And that was just fine. They loved it. They had fun. It was a good day. After that, we go into stretching in our share circle where we take turns sharing, and we also have breathing exercises that we do during that time. And that just pulls us into our lessons, which depends on if it's a book study or a science class. Usually there is a read aloud, and the kids will do copy work, or they can be drawing, watercoloring while I'm reading. Then we have an activity related to whatever we read. We have lunch and outdoor play for an hour. And then we come back in and do some more read aloud or book discussion, a book activity, some sort of activity. It varies depending on what the class is. And then we tidy up and the kids are free to play until their parents come pick them up at 2. You can see in this picture, that was from our Christmas Carol book study. We did a reader's theater, and each day the kids would read parts from what we had already read that day, and it was a lot of fun. So my overall goal is I would love to find more teachers and locations for a variety of ages. Right now, the classes I offer are just for my son's age group from 7 to 11, and I'd love to see that expand. I'd love to see other people doing this, offering classes to homeschool families. It's a balance to make it affordable while covering my costs. I'm insured, and cost of materials and things for experiments, it can add up. But I'm really trying to keep the cost as low as possible while also being able to pay myself something and make it affordable for families. So right now, families pay about $35 a day for classes from 9:30 to 2. But sometimes it's barely covering the cost. But I am committed to making it accessible. And I am signed up to be a Hope provider. However, I'm a little confused on how it all works. And honestly, I don't have any other Hope students except for my son. And since he's my son, he's not able to pay me for these classes that he attends. So maybe in the future, if I had other Hope students, I would look further into it. Right now in our area, it's limited to public school, homeschool, Hope Scholarship, or you're driving to a private school. And the closest private school to us is in Augusta, and it's very, very small. Or you can drive to Winchester, and that's an hour. But what I have found with the classes I'm offering for us, there's been a reduction in stress on, get up early, get out the door, make sure you're there to pick them up from school. It's been an easier flow. We get up, get ready, we have our breakfast, we watch the news, and we've got a good rhythm, and it's not as stressful. And it's improved our family dynamics. Before, we were not getting the best of each other. He would get picked up from school, and he was tired from, all the self-control from all day, and I'd be tired from whatever thing I was doing that day as well, whatever work. And we just were not getting the best of each other. I'm not saying that every day is unicorns and rainbows, but I would say we have more good days than not. And I understand Wild and Wonderful Enrichment isn't for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all. No educational plan is. But I just want to encourage a diverse educational option for our area. Right now, West Virginia is 47th in quality of education based on this news article. And I've left the links there so you can look at it. And right now, public teachers in West Virginia are on an average paid $50,315, which is pretty low. It's the 50th out of 51 states. And I feel like that kind of shows the value of what West Virginia puts on education. And I know statistics can be skewed. I just personally feel that there is a big struggle to find teachers. I know when my son started first grade, there was a first grade position, a teacher position that was not filled. It started out with a sub, and then it went to another sub, and then they found a teacher. But it was a struggle, and that was the inconsistency was not good for the kids. I subbed in that classroom, and it did not flow well. The kids did not handle it well, and unfortunately, it's a struggle to find teachers in West Virginia. This is not a surprise, probably because they're not paid well. Now, any kid that does come to any of my classes does have to sign a contract, and the expectations are outlined in it, along with the liability statements, medical background, emergency information. And here is how you can find us. You can connect with me on Facebook, Instagram. I do have a Teachers Pay Teachers store where I put some resources on there. And then my website, and I do YouTube videos to show what we've been getting into.